Hi, and welcome to Benza Vineyards in Oregon's beautiful Willamette Valley. This continues our In the Vineyard series, and today we'd like to talk about something pretty special that occurs in the depths of winter, pruning, and in particular, cane pruning. One of the most important things we do in the vineyard is pruning. Pruning sets up the whole season. Arguably, it may be the most important thing of all, because if you don't prune correctly, it could have a drastic effect on your harvest come fall. The way we prune in Oregon is called cane pruning. Cane pruning is easily identified because rather than a big woody cordon here that you might see in Napa or Sonoma or other warm weather growing areas, here in Oregon we're concerned about moisture. It's a cool weather growing area, which is why Pinot does so well here. And one of the reasons we like cane pruning is this is basically 2-year-old wood that's on the fruiting wire here that we're going to be getting rid of. And as a result, it doesn't have the chance to develop that thick bark, much like the trunk here, and bring in moisture against our big nemesis, powdery mildew. This is, by the way, Chloe, who manages to get in every shot. There's not much I can do about that. So what we're doing is we're trying to decide, as we look at this vine and we spend 35 or 40 seconds per vine, which of the canes of last year that are thicker than a pencil and have internodes about as wide as my fist are going to be the choices to become this year's fruiting wire laydown vines. So we're going to be picking. We have a selection here of at least 1, 2, 3, 4. I wouldn't go further than that. We want vines that are close to the crown so we don't get this creep or sprawl out of there. And so the process starts of winnowing down. We'll cut off the ends quickly because we don't need that. And then we'll make our decisions on which become the actual canes that get laid down on the wire. Looking at that tangled mess of canes in the actual field can be very confusing. So simple illustrations like this from winefolly.com sometimes help. This is what we are generally looking at in the winter dormancy period. We've got a trunk growing up. We've got the 2-year-old wood that was last year's fruiting arms. And what we're after is to reduce it to the new fruiting arms from the existing canes, one on either side, tied around the wire with at least one, if not more than one or two bud, usually 2 bud renewal spurs. In Oregon, virtually everything is done with VSP, which stands for vertical shoot positioning. What we're attempting to do is, via the use of guide wires, to grow those canes straight up so that they in fact become almost like a sail is to a boat, only in this case it's leaves for sunlight to capture the maximum amount of energy. So let's go to Ruby Vineyard next door. We haven't started pruning on our 15,000 vines, but Ruby has. And we're going to go with and walk with veteran winemaker and pruner Andrew Kirkland, who's our winemaker. So let's go and look at a particularly gnarly area of vines, 42-year-old vines. These in front of me are 25-year-old vines. But when you start getting up in age to the 40-year-old mark, you start developing some very interesting heads and nodes and what have you from prior years of pruning decisions.
Okay, it's a good.
Yeah, you can leave that guy as just a backup spur, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like right there.
Gotcha. And then this guy right here, we'll just cut out.
Yeah. And that's it.
There you got it. So you got a spur and you've got the canes for the fruiting wire.
2 fruiting canes and a spur for fruiting cane for 2 years from now. So it's a 3-year process.
You want to explain that a little?
Yeah, so everything that's done at the vineyard is done multi-years. you're thinking about multiple years, and pruning is the most important factor for that, because that is where your fruit comes from. But you need to be able to keep the vine in balance and have fairly healthy kind of regrowth. So out of here next year, there'll be a shoot that will then be able to hopefully lay down, and then we'll get the same out of here, and eventually we'll remove this wood, but in the dry season, and then we'll have from that spur, we'll be able to have the 2022 cane, and then where that grows up, we'll have the 2023 cane come out of that 2022.
Got it. Yeah, multiple years. It is confusing.
Yeah. So on this vine, we can see the head has kind of grown into the fruiting wire, and with these old vines that happens because you just make cuts and slowly it kind of comes up. So one of the goals that we have right now on the mature vines, old vines, is to kind of try and bring the heads down and kind of clean it up without making any large cuts to the wood. And so that's looking for the right kinds of suckers to train and pull. But in this instance, you know, the head is actually above the fruiting wire. So we've got to try and pull canes down to the fruiting wire. Hopefully in the future we can avoid that. I'm gonna spur that, hoping that at some point, maybe next year we'll be able to make a cane out of that, which will drop it below the fruiting wire.
And this is a 40-year-old vine?
These are 40-year-old vines, yeah. This is own-rooted Pomard, planted in 79.
It's a gnarly looking thing.
It is gnarly, a gnarly old vine. So I think it's gonna be this guy, so we'll actually cut this out. And then there's two fruiting canes, a renew, and just clean it up. And then we'll come back later and pull the brush. And the last move is tying down. So we've got a long ways to go, but perfect January day for it.
Please come join us as we finish cane pruning in the second video. In the meantime, please hit the subscribe button. It really helps grow our channel. And by all means, come and check us out at benza.com. Until the next video on pruning, take care. Bye-bye.